She's just received word from her lover, and she's carving his initial into the tree.
She looks sad.
I think she looks determined.
Mm-hmm.
When I was still a young woman, in fact, I thought about it briefly. I only know that because in preparing for the film, I looked back at a lot of my diaries and notebooks from that time. And having decided, and this was in 2015 when I decided to make this film, this story called The Souvenir, I didn't realize until I looked back in one of my notebooks from 1988 that I had already decided at that time to make two films. One film about a relationship and the second film a response, a processing of that relationship.
Did you score today?
No, don't ask me that. No.
Because I feel like you're on something.
There's some element of my life that I'm wanting to express in the film, but then at a certain point I cast that aside when I decide on my crew and my cast. Each stage of the process, it removes slightly from myself in a liberating way.
I mean, you've changed quite a lot since you came, haven't you, in your intentions? And that's okay. I mean, people are supposed to grow and in this process.
So sometimes my notebook would be filled with lists of events or objects, even anything that I remembered from that time. And then, of course, I was taking photographs at that time, so I had actual evidence, photographic evidence, and sometimes voice recordings of people I knew then. So it was almost like, rather than writing something, it was an archive process. And then slowly, because it's a very slow process, these notebooks transform, or I turn them into text.
I'm bringing you home for my souvenir.
And then what arrives in print is only very short. I mean, sometimes it's 25 pages, sometimes it's 30 pages, not many more. So it's a very dense document, and it's filled with ideas, internal thoughts, and the what a character may be thinking, but we don't see. Everything sort of behind the story in a way. And then sometimes some lines of dialogue, but like you would find in a novel.
Well, I'll leave aside the red bow, but at this stage, a title, although you then rather archly have a subtitle, Art as Life, but there are no scene headings.
So are we now discussing the layout of a script as a reason?
The layout captures the precision with which you're thinking about your project.
So it's something that can be read as a short story, but doesn't encumber me. I don't want a 100-page screenplay to carry around. I don't want to be reading when I'm working. I want to work with my actors and my collaborators behind the camera. I want a very immediate connection with them, and I don't want the connection. I don't want to have paper between us.
I feel like my energy was too high or too lively. I don't know how to say that. You know what I mean?
I was quite lively.
But that means I'm asking a lot of my collaborators, especially my actors, because I'm not writing all the dialogue. And that gets devised during the shooting of a scene. And sometimes I will write a scene the night before the next day of shoot in order to help an actor if they want to see something written down. But I never give them long enough to memorize what I've written. It's just sometimes a map.
But that's what we want to know when we go and see a film. We don't want to just see life played out as is. We want to see life as it is experienced.
Well, that scene was very key because it was the first scene we shot for part one. And Honor hadn't met Tom. They hadn't met. And so I wanted them to meet as characters in the scene. But also, importantly, Honor hadn't seen this document that I had written, but Tom had, which seems very unfair, but it felt right for the characters. It was exciting for me as the director, stepping back and watching to see a relationship unfold almost in real time, and for Anthony to have the control that he does in much of the story. He is controlling the story. He's controlling Julie's story.
Julie, please come and join me. Julie Hogg.
When I met Honor, despite already actually having met her as a child and known her through her life, but when I met her and had the idea of her being Julie for the first time, I was struck by her, the way she spoke and what she spoke about, and it reminded me a little bit of that time and a little bit of myself too, my younger self.
You worried about me now?
No. No, not for once.
I don't know if I can, because in some ways it is like describing myself, which I've never been good at. I can't see outside of myself, and I could come up with some obvious answers to that, about her being quite shy, but very passionate about films, not very good at expressing herself, not very articulate.
Because I left and he was by himself for an afternoon and I didn't know what he did, so.
I'm very cut up about what happened to Anthony.
I'm more interested in moving the camera now than I was, and getting more close to people. I think initially I liked the idea of this fixed frame because it's good for choreography. I mean, not actual dance choreography, but choreography of movement. And I'm so interested in how people move, so I want to see the full body, like Fred Astaire in a musical. I want to see the movement. It was really enjoyable, but also a challenge with part two, because every day it felt that as a crew we were shooting a different film, because I'm expressing so many different ideas or different types of films that my characters are making and have to get inside each film. So the beginning of our shoot of part two was actually Patrick's musical, and so much energy and effort went into the creation of that. At one point I thought, well, we're going to use up all our resources and all our money on his film, and we've only just begun the shoot. And then we move into Garance's film that she makes at film school, where Julie's taking still photographs on her set. And each time we entered into this different universe, it was really enjoyable, in fact, because I felt that each universe we went into wasn't a distant one from my own, connected to maybe a type of cinema I was interested in when I was at film school. And Garance's film, for example, is very much referencing Ben X's films, who I really loved, Diva at the time, and The Moon in the Gutter, and I envied those films in a way. I wanted the film to have almost a feeling of a collage, and quite early on when I was writing the film, I knew that I would use some of my still photographs actually in the film, and maybe some of my Super 8, And so that already set a tone for a feeling of the film that would be shot in other mediums. So I wanted to have Super 8, 16mm, sometimes digital, sometimes 35mm, sometimes black and white, sometimes colour. Viaggio in Italia. And for me, that's something in all my films. I've striven for this feeling of some kind of concrete reality that he expresses. Roberto Rossellini had said something very interesting about experiencing something in life and the immediate thing of experiencing something and wanting to make it into a film straight away. In the past, particularly in the 1980s in London, there were many independent cinemas that have now since sadly closed. And my memory of watching a film, sometimes it's the place that I'm watching it in, the room, that special room that resonates even more. And I feel some nostalgia, more melancholy, maybe a better expression of what I feel about the loss of some of these spaces, which are actually still in existence, but they're hidden now below buildings in London. I don't know, I just imagine the cinema still there, like some kind of lost ruins.